What's up, guys? Welcome back to Kinda Funny's The Conjuring Cinematic Universe in Review. That's right, Cuckoo in Review. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by big old Bathsheba himself, Greg Miller.
Meh.
The Nun, Elise Willems.
This is my movie.
The Crooked Man, James Willems.
I gotta go to a doctor because my back is killing me.
And the old man from Conjuring 2, Nick Scarpino.
I was burned alive in this chair. We're not sure.
We're not sure. We are not
This
sure.
is my London voice.
You can watch the show live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, or you can watch it later on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. If you want to listen to it as a podcast, just search your favorite podcast service for Kinda Funny Reviews, and we'll be right there for you. If you want to get the show ad-free, guess what? Patreon.com/kindoffunny is where you want to be. Just like our Patreon producers, James Davis at James Davis Makes and Andrew Feisner. We appreciate both of you so very, very much. We're brought to you by Honey, but we will tell you about that later. Because right now, we need to tell you what we think about The Nun. Let me tell you right now, Greg, it's none of your business.
Oh,
no! While we're doing wordplay one for my Quebecois audience, La Nun. That means pussy. I found out last night.
Oh shit!
I kept laughing every time they would say Le Nun, or like they even say it like that. She would laugh hysterically.
There's a French guy, a French Canadian in the movie.
Frenchie, yeah, who's not. He's actually. It turns out he's from Belgium, but like in real life. But he does a pretty good job. Jen said he did a pretty good job here of being French Canadian. Frenchie.
Totally just retconned at the end of this movie. Just jumping to the end of it here.
Why not?
It's like, oh, you know what? We got to make these movies relate somehow. Cool. Let's totally recast the
when
guy.
he got there, I was like, oh, all right, I didn't see that coming. And like, they retconned it a bit, but whatever.
That is kind of the story of this franchise, right? Where you're like, I didn't see that coming, but then you think about it and you're like, well, I guess there's no way I could have because it's a lie.
I'll be official record keeper for the nun puns. So
Okay, great.
more nun puns. So let me know. Okay,
That's good.
Number none.
That's
There you
two.
go.
Oh
That's two
shit,
right there.
dude! We're off to a good start. At least you're being too quiet. I know you got some bullshit pun in you.
I'm still stuck on is you assign each of us a character from this franchise. What is Tim?
What is Tim?
Tim's
that
all
for
of
us to
the
decide?
Farmiga family in one.
He's
Fifth girl.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe Tim is
He's
James
fifth child.
one and only.
I think
James
that
one
Tim-
and only. No good.
That's
puns.
good. I would say Tim is the tree from the original Conjuring because I'd love to hang off those arms all day long. You know?
Nice.
That wasn't good, Greg. That was
Not the way you think.
You want to climb him. I'm
go
going to
for
throw
it.
out Extra Child.
Extra child.
Tim is Extra Child.
Unnamed
I'll be
extra child.
the one kid too many. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that Tim is the noose of Kinda Funny because
Jeez.
he kills all of the shows here.
Man,
God.
something. It's getting a little dark. You know, let's talk about The Nun.
We have fun here.
Released on September 7th, 2018. And guys, don't worry. A sequel is currently in development.
Valak.
There you
Thank
go.
God.
Directed by Corin Hardy, who made his directorial debut with the 2015 horror film The Hallow, which he also co-wrote. In 2020, he directed 4 episodes from season 1 of Gangs of London, which is a TV series produced for Sky Atlantic. And then he did The Nun. And that's all he's ever done.
Good for him.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think it might
you
be
knock
the
it out of
least
the park.
credits I've ever seen when I'm talking about a director. And hey, good for him because he made a fuck ton of money. Budget of $22 million. Box office of $365 million, making it the highest grossing film of the series, despite having the lowest reviews.
You're assuming he has
So what?
points on
This had
though,
like what a 79, and the rest of them all had 90s, 89s.
I don't know. I don't know about all that. I'm not really sure. But what did you guys think of The Nun?
Upon a second viewing, I definitely liked it less.
Interesting.
Okay.
Though I appreciate that it exists, and if this enables them to make more Conjurings, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's not as bad as the first Annabelle. I think it's a competent movie. I wasn't like bored at any point, but I also got about halfway through it. I was like, why
Yeah.
do we
It's
need this movie
too
in the
long.
franchise?
That's kind
So
of
you say it's too long.
Yeah.
It's an hour and 26 minutes.
Yeah, it's not
too long.
I don't know that I felt like it was too long. Just think this is where things are starting to get muddled for me, really muddled, because it's so far removed from everything else that's going on that it feels like it exists in a different universe. This is the first movie that feels completely removed from all the other. This is like a monster movie.
Yes,
where you go
James,
to
that's what I was saying last night, is that this feels like a monster movie, and that it was them totally unanchoring. I didn't mean to interrupt that badly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you were agreeing with me, so please interrupt.
Yeah, no, like that's what I was saying last night. And honestly, it's one of the reasons I think this is us watching them all back to back to back to back to back that I kind of found it refreshing. I mean, obviously, it's not like a work of amazing cinema or anything like that, but I did appreciate that. Like from the jump, it was like, there's fucking Valak. She's like making this, other nun jump out the window and hang herself. And there's this weird door downstairs and there's this gateway to hell. And it's like, this isn't the normal Conjuring stuff, Nick.
See, I don't like that because I don't like I thought this movie was inferior because it starts off with that, this happened in 1952 or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Yeah.
Which makes it the earliest we've seen so far of the Conjuring universe, with the exception of the Annabelle creation beginning.
This movie seemed the one that was like least grounded in reality for me. It feels like it belongs more in like Universal's dark with a monster universe that they were trying to make than it does in the Conjuring universe. And I think they make a good effort to balance out sort of like, hey, we're grounding this in reality, but we're going to have some crazy fantastical events happening. Whereas this one like just starts off and they tell you, like, I think there's a title card that says, hey, this happened in 1952 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But then we immediately cut to like Knights of the Crusade and Jesus Christ's blood and like this giant hole, like gaping hole in the ground to hell with Valak coming out, and it just seems a lot more fantastical, which to me makes it a lot less scary.
Well, yeah, because it feels like the whole thing is they go, there was a wizard who lived in a castle. But he was stopped. Don't worry, because he was trying to open a portal to hell, almost did it, and he was stopped by the Knights, a team of Vatican Knights from the Crusade, sent over here. They had Jesus' blood. They sealed it up until World War II dropped the bombs. and it's like, there's so much stuff, and I'm like, I've never ever cared about this much explanation for how a demon shows up on this planet.
There's so much stuff explaining Valak and that and all this stuff, and then when you want to actually get into like what happens in this movie, like so fucking little happens.
Nothing happens.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
It literally
There's that big lore dump, and it's like they're trying to root it in something that feels very, very pious and Christian, and there's this air about this that gives it gravity, but it just feels bonkers.
Yeah.
And kind of way out of character.
I really didn't like it. This is definitely my least favorite so far. I did appreciate, like Greg was saying, that it's different than the others just because it's kind of a breath of fresh air, but it was like kind of like an air of fart where I'm like, it's different, but I don't know. I'm not really like digging this.
Stinky, but not my kind of stinky.
Yeah, exactly.
God,
hold on. I didn't mean that to be a segue to this fact, but it works too good for me to not
Is it a
use
fart? I don't know. This is a fact with Tim Ghetto.
An advertisement for the film.
That's my favorite segment.
An advertisement for the film was pulled from the video sharing site YouTube. Why would someone phrase it that way? As many users complained that the 5-second clip featuring a startling jump scare was too scary.
I remember that. I remember when that wasn't that the like outro for so many YouTube videos had just Valak on them? Was that a thing?
Maybe. I don't know.
And she was constantly popping up.
And was allegedly giving many viewers gas. Administrators thus removed the ad and apologized, claiming that it was not their intention to publish content that may potentially offend, shock, or give viewers indigestion.
I mean, if people were farting watching YouTube videos, Kind of Funny wouldn't have a channel.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's what I'm saying.
So I Googled this and I was like, wow, this is a real thing. Like, for some reason, people were getting gas from this. So that's kind of weird. But what I really didn't like about this movie is two things. The way that they make it relate to The Conjuring felt like they thought they were more clever than we are and just trying to trick us. Because you're going to have this girl that looks suspiciously like one of the main characters that we know and love. You're going to give her a backstory that kind of adds up to it could be her.
Yep.
It could be her. But
the
it's
timing
like,
works out.
But then she took the vows, so I guess it can't be her. But I guess she could change. Oh, no. Oh, it's a swerve. It's the French guy. It's just like, get the fuck out of here. Like, that feels so stupid to me. And then the other thing is, like, 2/3 through this movie, it kind of turns into an action movie. It's like,
yeah,
it's a monster movie, and then all of a sudden, this nun's a fucking badass, man. And she's like, I'm ready to do some one-liners. I'm ready to like spit in your face with blood. And it's like a moment that we're supposed to go, yeah. And I'm like, that's not why I watch these movies.
So I thought they were originally going to draw some parallel between the Vera Farmiga and Taissa Farmiga is his daughter, the daughter's name, right?
No, it's her sister.
Sister.
Taissa's her sister, yeah.
Taissa's her sister?
They're
It's her
20 in
sister.
real life. They're 20 years apart.
Wait, this is Lorraine's actual sister?
Yeah, they're related.
No.
Wow.
Oh, Vera
no wonder they look
Farmiga.
alike.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
who's Vera Farmiga?
Taissa Farmiga. So
Greg
this
only
Lorraine-
knows
Who's
the
Vera-
Conjuring universe.
Lorraine.
Vera
Vera
Farmiga
is
plays
Yeah,
Lorraine.
Lorraine. All right, so I was right,
Yeah.
and there was no reason to correct me. Thanks, everybody. Wow, it explains why they look so much alike. That's
They
crazy.
do. I thought they were. That's crazy. I thought it was her mom. I thought they were going to go, hey, this is the reason why Valak is haunting you because this person was in your family
Yes.
lineage.
Yeah, that would make
beat her,
sense.
and now she's coming back, or Valak's coming back to like fuck with your family again. And then maybe we'll get like a Conjuring sequel in the distant future where the little girl then takes up the mantle and has to fight this thing again and again.
Yeah.
No, we get none of that. It's Frenchie LeBeau, the
It's
guy
a weird-
the side character in this.
It's such
Who,
a
by the
weird
way-
non-bait and switch.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
Like
crazy.
because in the 50s, she's just about the age that Lorraine Warren would have been in the 50s. And they do the time jump, and it doesn't seem to matter. When I first saw it, and it was not revealed that it was Lorraine, I thought it was going to be like her sister or something.
Something. Yeah.
And that was going to be the connection. But that hasn't come out unless this is something that they're keeping in their
There's-
pocket.
It's the scariest thing I can think of, which is nepotism. Okay. That's the true nightmare of this. No, it seemed like, I mean, it seems that's what makes this, I think that's what makes The Nun worse for me than what the actual movie is. It's these weird things where it's still trying to acknowledge that it's part of this other universe when so much of the actual movie, so much of the script and how the movie is made says it's from a different world completely. Because like this movie is made almost entirely on a soundstage. Like it's constantly got like the graveyard with fog, like smoke machine fog and
Totally.
stuff like that. It's like
Even that
it's
first
like
shot.
constantly made in some sort of studio place where the other movies feel really based on locations and like they're in the world and stuff. And so this movie is just made so much differently. And it's, I don't know, it's really weird that then they have stuff where like, and then the main character looks exactly like the other character and this, that, and the other thing. I don't know.
Blame,
It's
I don't blame
weird.
them though. I don't blame them because like the Harry Potter movies are done, and Hogwarts was available, so they're just like, I guess we're going to use this, and we're going to have really
But
shitty
it's-
outside shots of it.
It's so crazy because I mean, all of these things add up to an experience that does not feel like it belongs in this universe. And that even the very, very first shot where they're walking down that hallway, and my first thought was, there's way too much smoke in there. Why is there that much fog on the ground? Why is there that much dry ice? Why it looks comical? It looks like it belongs in the haunted mansion. It doesn't look like it's not scary. It's pushed it into the silly realm, as well as all of the crosses and all that stuff. It's just a little too much. And then just a lot of the ways they almost nailed the cinematography, almost. Where it's
Hold on
like
one
there's
second, hold on a
those
second.
moments. Sure.
Jen, can you remember last night when we were like, you were like, man, the young nun looks like Lorraine.
Yeah.
It's her sister in real life. It's her sister in
She's
real
got a
life.
lot of sisters,
It's
apparently.
crazy. Nick says she has a lot of sisters. I don't know why.
She has
Are
two
they all
sisters
actresses?
and 3 brothers. Well, Nadia and Larissa, and it looks like
Only the ones
like
that want to
Taissa.
be are
Maybe
actors.
3 brothers.
Oh
and
no,
3
I
sisters,
said
man.
I said the La Noon thing. I said for my Quebecois listeners, La Noon.
Hey, Greg, can you also say, can you say
You should've said-
tabernacle to Jen?
Tabernacle.
Man, the
What'd she
Farmigas.
do?
God,
Why-
oh no, she
why'd
laughs
you-
every time I
Why'd
curse.
you say
Oh,
like
right.
Borat?
Oh, because that's how you do. If you said it American wise, you'd say tabernacle, but it's tabernacle. Tabernacle.
I'm gonna ditch out of my incredibly relevant point to ask
Copy.
a stupid question that
Go
nobody
for it, Nick.
want to answer. Do you think the Farmigas have more siblings than the Skarsgårds? Do you remember when we had that conversation about how many fucking Skarsgårds there are? There are
There's a lot of
6
Skarsgårds.
Farmiga siblings. This is
Aren't there?
bananas. Are you
6?
looking at this, Tim?
No, that,
Nadia, Larissa, Alexander,
am I looking at this?
Daphne. Dude,
The one
Farmiga's
thing I was
dad
really
likes
looking
that. Mom
forward
likes
to
that
about this
fuck.
podcast was I knew Nick. I knew Nick was this was gonna be a thing for him with Tyson and Vera
It
Farmiga.
doesn't make any sense. It's like if somebody decided to make a movie that starred all of us, but then made 0 reference to the fact of how we know each other. It makes no sense whatsoever. They just randomly cast someone that looked like her.
Well, but
for
I
no
mean, the
reason.
Muppets do that sometimes.
No,
hold on, Nick. I can't let you leave that point before we stay in this world for a second. James and Elise, the rest of us have had this conversation way more frequently than we should. But do you know how many Wahlberg brothers there are?
See, we got. I'm just trying to imagine when I go to Wahlburgers. There's always a picture of them there, and I'm trying to imagine.
Because he was in the movie Four Brothers, so he must have foreign.
I'm going to say 5 to be safe.
50 Cent was in that movie too.
The answer is 9. The answer is 9. There are 9 Wahlberg siblings.
It's just like people used to have 10 kids because they all worked on the farm and they needed to. I don't know why you have 9 Wahlbergs.
You hate condoms.
That many kids. Why isn't there a Conjuring movie about the Wahlbergs? They got to get on this. You know?
Oh my
God. Too many kids.
Buddy Wahlberg looks exactly like Bill Paxton.
Is Patrick Wilson an only child? I'm asking for some sort of other prequel that they're going to make because
the Crooked Man.
Do whatever with it.
The Crooked Man. All right, back to it, Nick. Back to it.
Okay. I think this movie just misses the mark more often than not. It has some decent jump scares, but for the most part, a lot of the stuff that was I think in the prior movie not Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation, a lot of the cinematography in that, with them running up behind him and the kids turning, all that was shot so well that you're just tense from the get-go. In this, there are moments where I'm like, wait a minute, the abbess is still there? Like, she's just randomly walking in the background? Or there's the one shot where, I forget the lead character's name, Taisa Farmiga's character's name. She sees the shadow on the wall, and it's like After Effects jankily,
and it goes to the mirror
over, and then it goes to the mirror, and it's not scary at all.
No.
You do get a jump scare there to begin with, but for the most part, I think they just fundamentally fail at building tension in this, which I think a lot of the stuff comes off comically. Not to say there isn't some cool stuff, like a lot of the stuff with the grave and him, when he's in the coffin and all that claustrophobia with hands grabbing him, that was kind of cool. But at a certain point, when you see the nun over and over and over again, it just becomes, you're right, it becomes an action movie. But I will say this, the one thing they did manage, and thank God, the through line of all these movies is to just have a ton of actresses that all look exactly the same. So I have no fucking idea who any of them are for an hour and 35 minutes. Yeah.
No, that is so true.
I thought the nun that died was in it again.
Me too.
Hold on real quick. What is the trend? Too many sisters, can't tell them apart. That works for children as well as for sisters in terms of the term
breath of fresh air, guys. It wasn't a bunch of annoying kids we can't keep track of. It was a bunch of nuns who somewhat are crying and ghostly and praying all the time.
Although, wait, now that I think about it, maybe they were the same from the beginning because she was imagining them, right?
So
I think they were ghosts.
With the exception of the abbess, who was revealed to be a corpse manipulated by Valak, the nuns are shown interacting only with Sister Irene, hinting at the revelation that she's been talking to ghosts all along.
But I mean, but I love that. But to me, that needed to be a twist where we needed to see. I don't know. It was more confusing than it was.
Well, it felt like a by the way.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like an executed plot twist. It felt like
they got to 30 pages into the script and they're like, how are we going to extend this?
Like the right way to do it would have been to let us get to know the nun who sacrificed herself, but not see her face, right? And then there's a reveal toward toward the third act where Taisa Farmiga's character is looking through a book and is like, holy shit, I've been talking to this person who was the dead, puts the name with the face and that's the dead person because we never saw her face. I thought we were going to there was going to be some reveal because, you see the crows eating her face off. And so when the characters look, they don't know what she looks like. But instead, the reveal is we're just going to make this thing confusing, but at least we're going to make it short.
I was so distracted the whole time, trying to figure out how they were going to reveal Irene being Lorraine. And I was just what's the scene going to be at the end where they're just you can call me Lorraine.
Tim, I think the same thing happened to me the first time I saw it.
Yep. Yeah. How are they going to change?
You guys are crazy. I was just enjoying the ride. I was like, this is Valak's backstory. Can't wait to see. And then upside down cross, and then they go. I was like, oh, you got me. You guys got me. Good job out there. You know what I mean? Also, shout out. Here's the thing. Elise, you went to 3 years in nun school before you dropped out. Mm-hmm. The idea of this container of Jesus's blood.
Sweet. Everyone gets one. Standard issue, day one.
I went to Catholic school for 13 years. I never remember hearing about this weaponized thing of blood, with the exception of Tales from the Crypt, Demon
Night. Thank you.
So my question is, did they invent that and these people ripped it off, or is there just a thing of Catholicism and I'm not about? Because it's very similar, right?
My question is if that wasn't Jesus's blood, then whose blood was that? So I've got a lot of soul searching to do.
Great point.
But
Great
no, I
point.
think you're absolutely right. It is weird how now I hate when movies and books do this, where it's like now these relics are just so prevalent and accessible, and it's just a thing. It's just, oh yeah, like of course we've got extra vials of Jesus's blood lying around.
Well,
was
we
hidden
lost
in the
every
wall.
single
It was
book
hidden in the wall.
the Alexandria library, but we still have a vial of Jesus blood.
It feels more like a plot point of National Treasure than it does a franchise that has
Totally.
to some extent been pretty eloquent in, how it's used different relics and objects in it. Like it
But
does
this is the
feel
fun spin-off. Get weird
Yeah.
with it. You know what I mean?
I know, but
Leave the
don't.
cuckoo.
It's still hard. It's still
my
hard
anal
to-
retentive brain was like, wait a minute, like I worry that if I were the priest that lost his eye and I go back to the Vatican and then my boss is like, did you bring back the rest of Jesus's blood? Because that's all we have left. I'm like, oh fuck.
But I drank
Was
it
I
and
supposed
spit
to
in
use
the
a little
demon's
bit
face.
of it? Yeah, she drank it, bro. We're gonna have to go get her. Am I the only person that thought like she's like, I need to take my vows? They made such a big deal of it. Am I the only one that was disappointed where when after she took the vows, she was still wearing white? I thought she was gonna be like full Iron Man.
Gandalf.
Decked out.
Or
Because
like
That
the-
was gonna be Gandalf.
right? They set it
I was
up
like,
that
what
way.
the fuck?
They totally said. First off, she looked dope in white. Like I
course.
did. I liked her like looking different, and it was just like that was a cool touch. But I'm with you. They treated it all as if it was this like get hype, let's fucking go moment. Didn't give her the suit up, but then they did give her the fight scene. Like her in the water going up and spitting the blood. Like did she have a one-liner? I watched it a couple days ago, so I don't remember like the line for line.
No, her mouth
But
was full of blood.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
she went
Well, afterwards.
Taste my pain.
like
I appreciated it more. I was doing sound effects for Valak. Because like Valak, she comes up and Valak's like, and then it's like Valak goes through a whole bunch of emotions as a demon holding the nun and you know what I mean? Like what the fuck, man?
Am I also the only one that thinks that like Valak looks a lot like Marilyn Manson? Like there's that.
No,
Yes,
That
no,
makes
we
sense.
said that.
Did we say that before? Okay.
No, not you. Me and Jen did. You weren't
Oh,
here
okay.
last
Yeah.
night. We said
I was
that.
like,
yeah.
man, looks like that one video.
the woman
I
that
don't know.
plays Valak she's striking in real life, like without all the
Is she?
makeup.
Bonnie
Yeah.
Aarons.
Bonnie Aarons?
She's got
Bonnie
a great
How
look.
many
Aarons.
sisters does she have?
I'll look into it for you.
Bonnie
The thing about this movie, I like examining how it tries to connect back to the cuckoo, because it's kind of like how, remember when we were watching Annabelle Creation and it got to the end and we were like, wait, so hold on, wait a minute. So she just happened to accidentally find the doll. Like, I get that they're trying to link these films together, but when you actually think about the link in that chain, it doesn't make any sense. So in this movie, it felt like the same thing. It was like, oh my God, it was Frenchie. And you're like, okay, but didn't you establish in Conjuring 2 that it was the Amityville thing that's attached? That's when it really started attaching itself to
But
her?
that's
like,
the thing that goes
Right.
back further than that. You know what I mean?
They're just like,
You weren't
no.
prepared for it.
But
we
here's-
were
here's my other
wrong.
question.
Like, I like
This
Here's my
is
other
the
question.
movie that connects it the most so far, because this movie is the only movie so far that uses multiple past movie footage. Because we got some Conjuring 1 stuff and some Conjuring 2 stuff. So at the end of The Nun, a scene from The Conjuring 2013 is shown where Ed and Lorraine are performing an exorcism on Maurice. This scene links the Maurice from that video as being the same Maurice from The Nun, but they edited the scene to fit the narrative of The Nun. They edited in the new actor into the exorcism as he used to be played by a different actor. They added in dialogue of Ed saying they called him Frenchie to make it connect better.
That was
I haven't been this pissed off since Billy D. Williams was replaced by Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face.
Yeah,
I was promised
understandable.
a
Anger.
Billy D. Williams
Anger.
Two-Face, and then they swap him out when it's time to go. So
This movie starts, and I had to watch the beginning of it twice because I was like, what is happening here? We've got two nuns with a key. And then for no reason, they open the door. Greg Miller from Kind of Funny.
Sorry, this is breaking news. I want you to know that it's out there. We will see if we get a response. I've tweeted at Bonnie Aarons. Hey, Bonnie, we're reviewing The Nun right now. We're talking about the family ties in the film. How many siblings do you have?
Cool.
We will
Great.
see if we
That's
get a
not
response.
creepy.
She has
Yeah.
not tweeted
No.
since May 7th, though, so we will see.
Ooh.
That's going to be
well,
a tough one.
I mean, no blame there. It's been a hard summer. So.
True.
So
Cruel
here's my
summer.
question for you guys, because I watched this twice, but it was very late last night and I was a little tired.
What's
They
going
have
on?
the key. Why are they going into the room at the beginning of this?
Don't know.
Okay. And then once they open the door, why does only one nun go in? And then once that
You know you
nun,
have to
it
do.
looks like she's
Well,
been taken
also-
over by the creature. Why
Do
does
they
she
have
go,
the
hey, don't let
key-
him hit you?
Do they have the
Because
key
she
because they're
then gets-
going to get the Christ blood? Because the key later, the key later
The key is used to open the wall to
this
get the Christ
comically
blood.
large video game key.
Right.
You gotta
Well-
use it to get the Christ blood.
because later they use the key to get the vial.
Yeah.
Yes. So the key is that the key is important there. So we have to show the key. But to me, I'm like, if you approach a door that a demon's standing behind at the beginning of the movie and you're holding a key, my brain as the audience goes, that key
The
goes
key's
to
for
that
the
door.
door.
Yeah.
But let's
But then they
establish
open the
this as
door.
well. The demon was already wreaking havoc on that monastery for who knows how
Ages.
long,
Right.
way before anyone opened a door. So what is the point? There were only two at that point. There were only two nuns left alive, and they were like, "We have to open the door because I don't know why." And then they never really sort out why.
Right.
And then one of them dies, and the other one says, "I got to get this key out of here." So she jumps and kills herself. But I guess it also doesn't matter because the nuns' Valak's powers extend pretty far out from the monastery anyway. Like they're like there's a little girl, she
Blind
killed
kids
herself.
people
There's like another boy who's stricken or whatever.
It's
Like
because it's weakened by the bombs now. The prayers of the dead nuns aren't working as well anymore.
All right, so
Solid
here's my
point.
deal. Here's my other question to you guys: is one of the nuns, the last two remaining nuns, who we can all agree these are not visions because the protagonists haven't shown up there yet. So these are two real nuns IRL, right?
Yeah.
One of them goes into the room. We don't know why she's going into the room, other than just to get unceremoniously killed.
dust.
She runs out with her hand bloody and says, "Don't.
You know what
here's
to
the
do."
key. Don't let him take your soul." And then gets dragged back into the room, presumably to have her soul taken. Right? Is Valak just killing these people, or does he have the ability to put his I don't understand what taking a soul means, because I guess evidently the nuns were too powerful for that. That's why they needed Maurice. But then how do you take a soul, and why wasn't the first soul the very first nun taken and then walked out of the fucking abbey and never came back? What is Valak's
You're asking
overall
really good
deal
questions here.
What's
Really
the point
good
of
questions.
Valak? How do you possess someone, and why can't you possess one of the 30 fucking nuns that have already died in this
She
thing? What is the
needs
point?
to possess a host, and maybe it's the last living nun in the nunnery. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's maybe because they're all
Well,
praying.
Maybe it is.
It's weird because, and I think this is, again, I honestly think if I had just seen The Nun, I would have been like, it's fun. It was a fun ride. It was a super fun ride, you know?
Totally.
It's like a roller coaster,
That's
horror movie version of a roller coaster. Because it's tied to this other stuff where other rules have already been established, it really stands out, and I think that makes it look worse than it is.
Yeah.
Because, like, you have the first Conjuring, which kind of establishes the rules. It's like, you break the hosts down. You just beat them down until they have no willpower left, and then that's when you're able to.
They're
basically,
vulnerable.
they're
You
vulnerable.
can- yeah.
They allow you into them, and then that's
Okay.
when a ghost or a spirit or a demon or whatever can get inside that, and then manipulate you in the real world, however
Take
it
your
needs
soul.
to get what it wants, to do what it wants to do. Right? I know that's not necessarily Valak's MO, but that's what Conjuring 1 establishes. This one goes, sometimes there's a ghost nun, and sometimes it's angry and it throws you against the wall and you die. You know,
And that's the
It's
thing.
true.
Souls ain't cheap these days. You know,
Well,
guys?
I can't say this. That kind of makes sense.
But
Because
if you want a
you're-
good deal on a soul, ladies and gentlemen, you
Hey.
should use Honey. This episode is brought to you by Honey. These days, it feels like online shopping is the only shopping that we ever really do. That's where today's sponsor, Honey, comes in. It's the free browser extension that scours the internet for promo codes and automatically tests them when you're checking out. It works for a whole bunch of different websites, all the way from things like Best Buy down to things like Etsy. Not sure you're going to get any good deals on souls, but perhaps if you search hard enough, you will. You get Honey on your computer for free in 2 easy clicks. Then when you're checking out on one of its over 30,000 supported sites, like pretty much any site I've ever bought anything off, I've been able to use Honey. It's been awesome. I've saved thousands of dollars myself. Kind of funny. I don't even want to think about how much money they've saved. You just wait a few seconds. Honey searches. It does a little cute little dance thing, and then boom, it's saving you money. It automatically applies the best coupon for the job. Honey has found over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. That's insane. It's simple. If you have a computer, Honey should be on it. It's free and works with whatever browser you use. You can get Honey for free today at joinhoney.com/morning. That's joinhoney.com/morning, so they know we sent you. One more time, joinhoney.com/morning. Sorry about that, Nick. Back to you.
That's okay. Tim, in case you're wondering, that was a solid 7 out of 10 for that segue.
Thank you.
It would have been a little higher, but you interrupted me.
You didn't call it nunny at any point?
So there you go.
Damn.
No, the point I can absolutely...
Nick, you gotta give Elise a point for that one.
All right, I'm sorry. That's one more. That's what
He was going to
was that none of
ignore
the,
it.
the
Like
none pun?
Tim ignored him.
There you go.
Damn.
My point, I guess I can almost understand that. Like, I can see it if they were like, okay, the nuns are obviously a little bit more powerful than a normal human being, right? Their faith allows them to repel this demon over and over again, so that it kind of makes sense that when the commoner comes in who doesn't have that faith or isn't trained by the church, he is the one person to get possessed. I just needed, as a dumb audience member watching this at 1 o'clock in the morning, to be beat over the head by that, which I don't know if that was their intent or not, but that's kind of how I read that, which was that Valak kind of was trying to possess these nuns. They were warding him off like together, and then when the one nun was kind of singled out and knew that she was less powerful because there was no other nuns left, she had to kill herself. Kind of makes sense, I guess. I don't know, but I'm kind of with, I think James made the point, whereas if this to me wasn't necessarily a terrible movie, it was entertaining. It's just unfortunate that we're comparing it to the Annabelle Creation, which fucking scared the shit out of me. It was beautifully made and all the shots were really well thought out. Tim Gettys kind of funny.
So, I was kind of thrown off when they like set me up for a twist and then gave me another twist. But I'm going to present a question to you guys. Who is the titular character in this movie?
That's a great question.
I thought you were segueing into another ad read. Like, you
No.
forgot about it. I was like, dude, that's really good.
Is the nun Valak, or is the nun the Farmiga?
Irene. I say it's Valak still. This
Yeah,
is Valak's
yeah.
show. It's Valak's story. It's Valak's origin. We're getting more into this, seeing how it connects. The gateway to hell. Gotta love it.
Also because when Conjuring 2 came out, they said, we're going to make a movie based on that nun. And then James Wan was seen pointing at the portrait. He goes, this one. This is the nun.
Did you catch the return of the photo from Annabelle Creation? Huh? It was on the wall there, right? It was.
Yeah.
I was thinking
There was
about
also
that.
2 separate Valak Easter eggs of Valak being spelled out. One was on the license plate on the Romanian truck, and the other was in the school playground where Sister
Valak's
Irene
hooked
is
on
teaching.
phonics.
That makes
Ghost
a
Rider.
lot of sense.
Positive I took away from this movie, especially on the second watch, was that Frenchie, I think, is a better character. Like that character could be annoying. And could kind of not be pulled off well or likable, but that actor does a fairly good job.
I think he gets better as he gets more scared and they give him more to do. Yeah. At the beginning of it, I felt like he was a little bit out of place. That actor, with the way he was directed and the dialogue given, read more like he belonged in a modern day Twilight film than he did in this period horror piece. I think as it went on, I warmed to him and I was like, oh, okay. You're they were giving you something else other than to sort of be this weird, I guess, love interest character for this young nun, even though it's completely inappropriate.
Test her
and,
faith,
I guess, but when he starts flirting with her, I was like, bro, she's a nun. Like,
she's a nun, man.
Come on, bro. She's not gonna give you none.
I would say on the flip side,
Thank you.
we have not mentioned the priest at all.
I was just going to bring up the priest.
At all.
Because the snake eye.
We've done this whole discussion and no one has mentioned that this character was in the movie.
I was going to mention because he's fairly vanilla. He's a definite priest archetype of these kind of movies. The exorcist priest, that he's dark-haired guy that seems like he's maybe seen some shit, but he doesn't really do anything new in this movie. Have you guys seen the first season of the Exorcist TV show with Gina Davis?
Yes, I have, Elise.
The first season is fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough. I think Greg, at the very least, you should watch it.
Where can I get
feel
this?
Like it's so. I don't know.
Where can you get it? How did we watch it? I don't even.
Wherever
know.
I get it, I bet I can use a honey promo code to get it cheaper. You know what I mean?
I'll try to find out because I think you would enjoy it. Like Gina Davis is awesome in it, and it also does a great buddy priest thing, where it also takes this kind of archetype of priest. Yeah. And does some fun things with that character. Yeah. But I digress. That priest is vanilla.
But this priest is so vanilla. He has his own kind of weird backstory. And then again, kind of going back into, I'm just a little unclear about Valak and what Valak does. This movie has really confused me even more. Like, there's a point where Valak is a physical entity that is battling with them in like almost a street fight fashion, like punching and kicking. while at the same time the priest is being attacked by the manifestation of a child that he failed to perform an exorcism on years ago that's haunted him. So, but it's a physical manifestation. There's so many layers. Like, it's the kind of thing where you could see he's like crippled by this. It's still caught up in his head. It's in his mind. He can't get over it. So he can't go on because he sees the boy, or the boy lures him somewhere, so that way something bad happens to him. But in this movie, no. The boy appears as a physical thing, jumps on his shoulders, spits a snake out of his mouth that bites his eye.
Yeah, he did that, didn't he?
Not only that, but there's one too many characters here. And I thought Frenchie originally, I was like, oh, this guy's gonna find it. We're never gonna see him again, right? But he comes back and sort of saves the day. It's a lot to track as a writer, especially in an hour. Basically an hour and 30 minutes, which I think is how long this movie is, right? Tim, something along those lines.
Hour 20 something.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I would have liked to have seen the relationship develop a little bit more between these two characters, the old sort of father mentor figure who has this fucked up past, and this young girl who's been chosen for this. For a reason that she doesn't really know, but the Vatican does. But the Vatican never tells the old priest why. Because if you remember, the reason why the first time he talks to her, he's like, "Yeah, you have some familiarity with Romania, right?" And she's like, "I've never been there before in my life." And he goes, "Weird. Let's go together."
Yeah.
Totally.
So I think those two. I think there was just one too many characters in there to really flesh out any sort of a viable relationship between these two people. And I really would have loved if they just made this movie about her. I wish the father would have showed up, got slaughtered, and then she was just stuck in this abbey by herself. And that would have
Especially if they
been
were
fascinating.
selling us that archetype, to then kill him off early would have been great.
Would have been great.
And the weirdest, I totally agree with like elements that both Elise and Nick were putting out here, where I like Frenchie. I think that he was like a surprisingly interesting character, but then they just shelve him for like half the movie and he's just kind of off. And that was a bizarre choice, especially when you have this priest that is not interesting at all. And then he's only there to like do the vows and make her an official nun at some point. Right. That also
like,
didn't live up to the moment.
It's like they were like, we need a man.
It really,
like, no,
it honestly felt that way. But like, they kill him and they don't commit to it. Like,
they don't commit to it.
When he was put into the ground, I was like, oh, awesome. That's a great way to handle this thing. And like, leave on from this, have Frenchie come, and they can do some shit together, and it'll be cute and great. No.
They also spoil the MacGuffin. Because, and this is to me, I was like, I would have never fucking approved this in the edit. He's the first person to use the Jesus blood against the nun, which then takes most of the weight away from that when you see it happen finally, and she spits the blood into the nun's face. Because we've already seen that have the effect that we want it to. We get it. The bloods, we've seen this thing, this magical Jesus blood sew up this crack in the ground. We understand that at some point our protagonist is going to have to get a hold of this unbelievable weapon and use it to kill this demon. It takes a lot of the weight off that, in my opinion, when Frenchie LeBeau, the side character who should have been killed off in the first act, does it, uses it successfully, then gets his ass beat. And you're like, well, where are we at here? I don't understand this. Why isn't this in the hands of who should be the protagonist and the main focus of this, which is Irene?
This goes back to the such a good point about how ridiculous this movie is. You just literally said the sentence. There was the magical Jesus blood that welded up the hole
up the crack. Yeah,
it's just like what the like when we've said some crazy shit about the Conjuring movies, but it's like that is a whole other level of like, what the fuck is this, man? Like,
this is going back to the core of the problem of what you're talking about this movie, that it is a monster movie. And again, like James, you said, we could walk into it sight unseen, not know the connection, cut off the front and the back, right? You're like, oh, okay, that was a fun movie or whatever. But it is this idea as you go through this. Yeah, like this is so unlike anything we've seen, even when we've seen Valak torture people before. Of like when the priest is put underground, I kept waiting for that moment of him pounding on the thing to then finally realize he's in his bed or whatever, or he's in an open hole.
He's under the ground.
He's underground and there isn't fresh dirt on top of him. There's grown over grass. You're like, okay, so like, yeah, what are the magical abilities? To your point about Frenchie, right? Like, gone for most of the movie, comes back in such an 80s way of comes in, hits that guy. Oh, you could have used the shotgun. I'm saving that for an emergency. Like, like, aren't we fighting a fucking ethereal demon that plays with our fucking heads? And you're going to shoot the shotgun and shoot me or shoot the nun or whatever. Right?
This moment right here becomes like Army of Darkness or Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Yeah.
This movie dipped so far into that territory that I was almost like, man, I kind of wish we had this vibe from the get-go where it is just sort of tongue in cheek. But this is, I think, the problem when you start retconning your own series and you start trying to, quote unquote, world build without really planning that, is that you don't really have, I mean, have the Marvel mentality where someone's overlooking this whole thing, being like, nope, that doesn't fit. This doesn't fit well. We need to dial this back. We need to do this. This movie just feels like it doesn't belong in this. And like let's put it this way. You can do crazy shit like this where you introduce elements or you go back and retcon stuff if you're making the Fast and the Furious, because nobody like, you know what I mean? Those movies are so ridiculously over the top fantastical that you're like, fuck it, bring back a character that's been dead. Fuck it. The character that killed the other character that we hated, make him a good guy. It doesn't matter. But in this, you do kind of want some commonalities between the series to actually believe that this bigger world is being built. And we're just not getting that.
I think one of the hurdles that this movie also has to face, and you would think it would be a strength, but I actually think it kind of works against it, is that horror generally works best when it's something that's horrific that's happening in a setting where horrific things don't happen. It's the juxtaposition of your house, right?
Yeah.
And this is a remote Romanian abbey that's like centuries old.
Cut off. Cut off.
You can write off the country of Romania for me in most cases, right? As scary.
It's already innately scary.
Yeah.
So I think that you would think that adds to more of the ambience and the horror of the situation.
Walk up to any Catholic church ever and look at it and be like, that's not scary. That's terrifying. They're all terrifying, right?
But I think that actually works against it in that way, because it's, when Valak is appearing, it's not the juxtaposition of Valak appearing in your happy, safe home.
Absolutely. I mean, let's talk about what are the scenes that in my brain stick out as the scariest in the series so far. All the series that happen in someone like around someone's bed, and the bed, like Tim pointed out, I think 2 episodes, used to be sacrosanct, right? It was like, you can't fuck with the bed until they decided to fuck with the bed. And that is because that is the one place where you're supposed to feel safe and sound and secure, and going and having a demon come in and fuck with you there is like super scary. This fucking Nightmare Abbey where people live and they can't talk to each other after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and a fucking medieval fence comes down and locks you in. I'm like, no. And these people deserve. I don't know.
Was the old receptionist nun? Was that Valak or was that a nun?
Valak.
That was Valak.
The abbot,
who was like, leave.
The receptionist nun.
No, it's like there's like someone sitting there and it's going, leave this place. It's like, and then they're like, well, sorry, the church sent us, and they're like, okay, come back tomorrow. And I'm like, that doesn't seem like a Valak thing. Like, but it also doesn't seem like a nun protecting a ground that's like, this is the last thing that my spirit can do to try and protect everyone from the outside from what's inside, right?
For sure. And something else I wish this movie had done better was make that Abby feel more like a character. We've talked about this with other movies in the Cuckoo, where the house just feels completely alive and part of it. The Abbey, you don't quite know the geography of it. You don't quite, it doesn't.
It's
quite
not a character,
land.
right? Like it takes forever for them to get. It takes forever for the young nun to get all the way down to the caverns, right, where the sign of like God ends here, or God dies here, whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like that is established in the front, and then it takes forever to get down there, and it's not like I understand in my head how that all connects.
Yeah, man, you gave me a great idea for a 2-movie series called Young Nuns, and it's just young guns, but with nuns.
Okay. Can Emilio Estevez be in it?
Absolutely, Emilio Estevez can be. He has to be in it. In fact, we don't get him aboard. Does
Emilio Estevez have a brother?
He's the Pope.
Actually, is Charlie Sheen. I don't know. This movie is just kind of misses the mark. Oh, I will say this though. When it comes time to ranking, I'll be interested to see where you guys rank this thing, because I actually enjoyed this way more than I did that first Annabelle.
Yeah. I mean, if we're classifying things just purely on the enjoyment, the watching experience, I think that we'll see.
Yeah, because I do think Taissa Farmiga's fun to watch.
Tim, you're muted.
Oh, Tim, you muted.
We're not this ranking part yet, but I do want to say, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. But it's like, I agree with what James was talking about this movie. If we didn't know, it would stand better by itself. But we do know. So having said that, for as whatever as Annabelle was, it's undeniably scarier than this movie. So it's like, I feel like the elevator scare alone, I think, is like better than any single element this movie has.
There's a couple scares in this that fucking got me. Actually, there's like 3 or 4 that got me. The shoulder touch, that I was like, well, get out of here, kid, with your stupid snake mouth. But I think James just said it. I think Taissa Farmiga fucking nails this role. I think she is a compelling protagonist to watch the entire time, which is why I was compelled. She's a great actor, and there's no disrespect to the actress in Annabelle, but I just think she's utilized here better, and it's a more interesting character to me to watch this person who's I wish they had pushed her a little more toward like the crisis of faith, because that's kind of what they were alluding to, where she's like, I haven't taken my vow yet, and everyone's like, well, take your fucking vow, you're going to, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm going to, it's just gonna happen, like, I just haven't done it yet.
But Frenchie.
I mean, and
But
that's
she
what it was
believes
supposed
in
to be.
dinosaurs, Nick.
She does. She
does.
Aggressive. She's just like our Pope now.
Taissa Farmiga was put on this earth to be brave while looking like she's gonna cry. She's in a bunch of American Horror Story, and that's all she ever does is she does something brave while looking like she's gonna cry. Perfect for this movie. I wish, like we were saying earlier, I wish they had given her more.
Yes.
Like I wish it was they just laser beam focused on her, because she would have nailed it. She would have totally nailed it.
I think the movie, the main central theme of the movie should have centered around her crisis of faith. And that's where the Maurice character could have come in. It's why she hasn't taken her vows, and it's why she's susceptible to being possessed by Valak. But why she's also needs to go in there, because she's the one that has the visions, because I don't know, God, yada, 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 write that off. But it didn't necessarily nail that. We have a character who we love right off the bat, who doesn't have a ton of flaws other than she believes in dinosaurs, like someone pointed out. And then midway through it was like, nah, you know what? I really want to be a nun. And everyone's like, yeah, we fucking know you wanted to be, like, we know you haven't, at no point in this did you ever think you were going to throw on a mini skirt and then go like banging around town with Maurice LeBeau.
Yeah.
The scene with her and the kids was fucking weird. And like, I don't know. I didn't go to private school. I've never had to deal with a nun in real life. They are
Nuns
just characters.
Nuns are the worst.
Yeah, I just wanted her to be like, and this was only 3,000 years ago.
It was just it was like a weird setup where I was just like, okay, we start this movie with like this supposed to be scary, but like Nick said, it's more haunted mansion-y, like, all right, ooh, spooky, like suicide stuff, great. And then it cuts to this like woman that is just talking to these children, and they're just enthralled with what she has to say. And I'm like, great,
teacher.
This is what we need. Even more kids. Let's go. I don't know.
Be an awesome nun movie is if nuns are all cloistered in the abbey and they're taking a vow of silence. And let's not even say that it's like a after dark vow. It's a permanent vow of silence. But nuns start disappearing, and they can't talk, so they can't exchange information.
It's like Among Us.
But the nuns keep disappearing.
Among us.
Oh, dude.
Nick, put it down, Nick.
Among nuns.
Lucky
But yeah,
number 5.
the nuns keep disappearing. There's some force at play, but they can't actually have a conversation about
None
it.
among
I
us.
like that.
Oh
See,
my
that
God,
sounds
Nick,
scary.
write it, Nick.
Nick, are you writing it down, Nick?
I put it.
This could be a T-shirt if we play it right.
I put it there for the nun puns. We got number 5.
I did really like the setup of there always has to be somebody praying. And like just kind of like, because we talk about the locations being a character, and I think this movie did fail at that. But I did think that at some point, once we were in there long enough, there was a couple rooms that we got familiar with, and I liked that there was always the setup of there has to be somebody kneeling, and if there's not, something's wrong or something's weird. Like that was kind of cool.
But even that gets kind of spoiled by the fact that you with the revelation that it's all in her head. Like if this movie were written differently, and I'm not saying that it should have, but if it were written differently, it would have started with a fully functioning Abby and a nun killing herself, and then the two characters coming to investigate, and then one by one, all the other nuns got picked off as we're seeing this like massive clash between these believers and this demonic force that's cracked open in the earth. That's one way to tell it. I mean, and you would have gotten to know the nuns and therefore sympathize when they die. Right now, I'm just like, I think it's the same nun that was like the same person that played every nun. I'm not quite sure because they all look exactly the same when they have it.
Well, maybe it's just that we weren't paying close enough attention. Like maybe someone else that watched the movie might have answers and stuff. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Barrett, I don't know where Andy's been, but can you bring up his video?
He might know.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I love our commitment to this bit.
Hey, review crew, it's me, Andy from Kind of Funny. Wish I could be there this week. I actually didn't get to watch the movie, unfortunately. I had the movie burned on a DVD RW, the rewritable ones, but for some reason my PS4 just kept spitting it out like it wasn't compatible or something. Because I used to have Big Mama's House on there, and then I burnt over that with Meet the Fockers, and then I burned over that with The Nun, and for some reason it's just, I don't know, maybe I burned over it one too many times. So sorry about that, but I'll see you all next week. I love you all, and I hope you all enjoyed the movie.
Meet the Fockers is the second
If we can do the normal thing where we break the bit for a second, I just want to point out that when we were sitting down to do the games cast, Andy was like, yeah, I got to tell Tim I didn't even have time to do the Conjuring thing. I didn't have time to do it. And I was like, well, just do one where you say you didn't do it. He's like, that's a great idea. And I was like, how much research do you put into the normal ones? Reading Wikipedia.
Well, I feel like there's a moment where you see him open the Wikipedia page, scan it for keywords, and then go from there.
I mean,
I'm upset that he spoiled.
Last week though, he told the plot to like a completely different movie though. You know,
Point Break.
That's right.
It was Point Break falling down that quick.
Man.
He spoiled our next in review of Big Mama's House. He wasn't supposed to talk about
There's a Martin Lawrence verse.
Damn.
In my Nun movie, there's also
Lowry.
an outsider priest that has to come in, a la Harrison Ford in Witness.
Nice.
But
Does he get to see the bare butt of one of the nuns? Because that's my favorite part of Witness.
The nuns keep walking in on him.
Oh, get out of here!
Like he's like the third time he's like, you're doing this on purpose. You have to be doing this on purpose.
I'm washing my butt.
But then, he's trying to figure out who's the next nun that's going to be praying, because she's the one that's going to be targeted. Nick, write that down.
Crouching nun, praying dragon.
God, so close, but no.
Seamless.
Greg,
Yeah.
I want to know about
Elise,
some beasties.
hit the song.
7 syllables.
No, you can do it wrong every single time. Just do like ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da.
Ragu.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da.
Bagu.
What's up, everybody? Welcome
Kind of tapered off
to
there a little
Rad
bit.
Guys Talk Bad Guys, the
batteries there,
podcast
yeah.
within a podcast where we rank all the baddies and the scaries of the cuckoo. Remember, for best scare, they are unranked. However, in the order of them being added, it was number 1, the fucking clap from Conjuring. Number 2, Girl, the crazy woman in the doorway in Annabelle. Number 3, Conjuring 2, the nun in the hallway to the painting. And number 4, Sheet Ghost in the bunk beds in Annabelle Creation. What is the best scare of the nun?
Greg mentioned it earlier for me, I think, which is the hands in the casket.
Yeah, that was terrifying to me.
I like that a lot.
Really good one.
It's a good one, yeah. And that's another one for me where it was scary, even though I was already set up for it. That scene, I think, was very poorly done, where it's like you see him get put into the ground, all the bells start ringing, and it was like it was corny and like super weird. Didn't feel like it fit this universe at all.
Sure.
But when the hands came in, it still got me. And so
Well,
that's
yeah, because you hear the
"You
scratching, and I was expecting a
motherfuckers."
punch through the wall or a punch through the top, right? Not
for it to
come up
be
from nowhere.
in. That was good. That was good.
All right, there we go.
I do feel like some of that moment was undercut by the like action movie joke sequence of the shovel going in and going shagunk, and you get the profile shot. I'm like, this is from a different movie entirely.
That's totally Army of Darkness or Ash versus
Yeah.
That was like some of the stuff. I'm
Absolutely,
like, I literally thought. I think there was one scene where Maurice pops up and the camera does that like very Sam Raimi. We're following you when we're on your bed, and then as you pop up, we walk back. And it's like kind of shot in more of a deep focus. I'm like, this is straight out of Evil Dead 2. A lot of the stuff is done with that sort of tongue-in-cheek style of shooting, but they weren't going for that, and it's unfortunate.
I'm okay with hands if that's what we want to go with for scare, but I'll just, for the sake of discussion, pose the other point where when Frenchie is wandering through the cemetery and who's that nun off in the distance or whatever, and he's wandering around, and then boom, her legs drop down.
That was pretty scary too.
She go boom, her legs drop down. Again,
good.
undercut by the fact that then he looks up and then a zombie nun falls on him and it becomes a whole zombie
chasing him
movie.
around. You're like, geez, all right, cool. That's a weird one for you. All right, now we get to the heart of the matter, the best beasties of the cuckoo. Right now, the Ragu Bagu rankings are number 1, Valak in The Conjuring 2. Number 2, Annabelle's Demon in Annabelle Creation. Number 3, Bathsheba in The Conjuring. And number 4, Annabelle's Demon in Annabelle. Where do we want to put Valak and the Nun?
I gotta say, I think it's last. And I think the thing that'll cement that for all of us is the fact that in this review, James said at one point, he was kind of like street fighting.
Yeah. Like, I will defeat you with my fists is something you should never hear a demon
Soul
say.
is mine.
He actually does
with the
say
whole,
your
like,
soul is
grab.
mine to punch. Yeah.
That's a solid point. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. I think, I mean, it's like we said a million times already, this is a weird, at times, whatever, fun, action monster movie, but it doesn't make Valak. It actually weakens Valak. Valak was cooler in the other ones, where Valak is standing there just being terrifying or using other ghosts to play off of it.
Well,
I agree.
there's sequences where there's like a long hallway or whatever, and then there's just a bunch of blank-faced nuns.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's scarier. This is scarier than the other thing. Like, that is more frightening.
On my TV, it looked like they were just wearing masks. Like
yeah,
it was just.
You
like,
got to turn the brightness down, dog. Contrast
I
is too
guess
low.
so, but that I was like, that should be scary, but why isn't it? Oh, because I can make out the
You see
facial
their
features.
mesh mouth.
Yeah, it just
breathing
looks like
through.
someone's wearing a bad $15 costume from Amazon.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a good point you bring up about the scene of the hallway, and earlier, Nick, you were talking about when they're in that main room and the lights start going off. Every other Conjuring movie has the setup and payoff of, oh man, we're seeing the record player, something's gonna happen with that, or we're seeing the like whatever the hell it is, the fire truck and the tent in the hallway, like all this stuff. This movie sets up, and Valak's whole thing, as shown in the post credits of the last movie, when he whatever it is goes through the hallway and the lights start turning off, like that's like the core of this character. Build something with that. Give us like some unexpected thing that like we just see in the background, lights are going off, not the focus like every time in this movie. Like let us like kind of like have a moment of like, oh, do you see that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of it always just being like the camera's on the camera as it turns off.
That's a perfect example. Like we're talking about that Maurice scene where he's in the forest. There's a way to shoot someone walking behind you, and then there's the way they shot it, which was like slowly. Hey, FYI, just in case you didn't see this person, they're there. Oh, by the way,
Yeah, it's like a YouTube thumbnail that has a red circle and an arrow.
Yeah,
I know you're playing
you missed in
Fortnite.
the nun.
Not only that, but there's moments too where I'm like, so there's the priest who's doing the research in that weird, like, I guess, torture chamber in the abbey. I'm not quite sure why they have this here, but there's knights that are buried in the middle of this thing, and he's doing that, and then the head abbey or the head nun, that's the demon Valak, is there, and then it's scary, and then we cut away, and then we come back, and then he looks back around, and she's there again, and you're like, it's not scary anymore because we've already seen it happen once.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Well, it's the same with the
Why
shadow
they do this
mirror thing. It's like, okay, you're doing this shadow thing again, except it looks worse. And then it goes to the mirror and it goes, huh, just kidding, not in the mirror. And you're like, oh, okay. And then it goes, just kidding, it was in the mirror. That's not scares.
Scared the shit out of me. I'll tell you that right now. That will probably that got a good.
But it's because it's loud. A lot
Yeah,
of it is
loud.
because they hit you with a loud sting or
It's
something
true.
like that, which is
with
cheating.
the teeth, the Marilyn Manson teeth.
All right,
So
Elise.
the nun in the nun is going dead last.
Exactly. Elise, now is your time to shine. How many syllables are in the middle?
7 syllables in the middle. 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, don't need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme.
Hey!
I don't know where the claps go though.
Haiku.
We do the class,
in
don't we?
review. Yeah, I know. You're good.
Okay.
You're good. You nailed it. I hope you didn't study because that is
Editor, put in the claps.
put them in them class. Put in them class. We only have one today. You can go to patreon.com/kindoffunny to write your reviews in haiku form. And I'm just gonna let you all know. Show The Conjuring some love. All right,
Here's
everyone
what-
wanted us to do it. The show's doing like well enough. We're seeing the numbers.
Tim,
What's up, Greg?
Obviously, we would have loved more,
Mhm.
but one is better than none.
Put it down,
That
mark
was
it
good.
down.
That's it.
Mark it down.
That was
Nick's
the best
hands
one.
are
Number
getting
6.
tired.
That was
Mary-
the, that was the
Number
best one.
6.
You need to give him carpal tunnel.
Oh man. Oh
Worse
man.
than he's already got.
Purple nunnel.
Hey!
Give yourself
Put it down.
extra
Nice
check
little
just for
point for that.
The
yourself.
best one followed by the worst one.
The Nick Scarpino way.
I think none of them are pretty good.
There it is. All right.
Anyway.
Pizza Bagel writes in that says that none don't want none unless you got them buns, son. Nick, show her your buns.
I don't. Okay.
I don't know how I
You told me to
feel
stop
about
doing
it.
that. You told me to stop doing that.
It's the pizza bagel. It's the pizza bagel. I don't know. I can't.
don't think they
I'm
watched
just
it.
reading. I'm just
I don't think they
reading.
watched it. I think they maybe put on the trailer. So.
Maybe. Now it's time to rank the Conjuring universe, cinematic universe.
The cuckoo.
Currently, number 1, we have The Conjuring. Number 2, we have Annabelle Creation. Number 3, we have The Conjuring 2. And number 4, we have Annabelle. We've discussed this lightly earlier. But Greg Miller, where would you put it?
I would put it
Okay. I thought he was gone there for a second.
second to last. I understand the argument we're making that Annabelle, while not a great film either, is at least true to The Conjuring, right? True to trying to build that universe, sticking with some of the rules established. To an extent, I guess that's true. It's still nonsensical a bit, and I don't feel like it fits cinematically with what we've done in the Conjuring universe before at the time. I would still say The Nun is a better movie. I enjoyed it more. I think that, I can see the argument that it feels less like a Conjuring thing, but I also think it, was the start, or at least the trial of them being like, how weird can we get? Can we do something weird? Can we have an Evil Dead style movie to it? And whether that works or doesn't work for you, audience, I understand. But I still enjoyed this movie more than I enjoyed the original Annabelle.
Nick, what do you think?
I'm with Greg on this. Where the original Annabelle, I think they tried, but it was a rough facsimile of what they were accomplishing with the Conjuring series. In this movie, I was not bored. I was confused a lot of the time, and I was. I was like, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the whole point of this whole thing is and what the main villain's kind of deal is. And then once the Abbey got bombed, I was like, let it go, and let's just we're on this roller coaster, and we'll see if it ever ends. I think this is I would vote this second to last above Annabelle, largely based off of Taissa Farmiga's performance, which I thought she was great. I thought she carried the scenes she was in. I wish the movie centered around her a little bit more and gave her a little bit more to do. But hey, hour and 30 minutes, you can't argue with that.
Mm-hmm. James,
I agree with Greg and Nick. I feel the exact same way. I think if you asked me which one I would want to watch again, I would say The Nun first. I think maybe it makes sense to form a sub universe, maybe called the Fast and the Conjuring, or something like that.
Yes.
Right? Which is this, and then I say go hog wild, make a Crooked Man movie that takes place on a racetrack or something. Go buck wild with it. What's that?
Does the Crooked Man have an issue with gambling?
Yeah. You immediately thought, it's interesting that you immediately imagined like horse racing. But yeah, I think it definitely is a different thing. I think still it's better paced out. It's less kind of just brooding and like expecting you to really have liked The Conjuring to be able to enjoy this one, which I think is the case for Annabelle. So I think I would put it second from last as well.
Elise?
I agree with Greg, Nick, and James.
Y'all crazy.
It is also the second to last entry for me. Some points people have already made. Taissa turns out a stellar performance. At an hour and 20 minutes, it still does feel long to me. Like there is excess weight in this movie or maybe misused scenes in time. I think it's more enjoyable to watch than Annabelle. Annabelle was the one that I was dreading rewatching a second time. Not dreading, but I just wasn't looking forward to it because I knew how I felt about that movie. And my hope is that at least this movie was maybe, like James said, a testing ground. And so it in that way, was an effective contributor to the cuckoo. In that respect.
You gotta push the limits. Occasionally you need a Thor Ragnarok or something out there.
Yeah.
You need something.
I love Thor Ragnarok.
I mean, with Thor Ragnarok being good though.
The success story, yeah.
and see, that's kind of that's where I come in. I'm obviously outvoted on this, so we know the rankings of it. But I just want to say, like, I think that in the same way The Nun is better if you just took it outside of any of the rest of it. I actually think Annabelle's better if you took it outside of comparing it to Conjuring. I don't think either are good. And I think the biggest issue I had with Annabelle was it felt like two separate movies. I still feel like both of those separate movies are more interesting and do things better than The Nun does anything. Because the nicest things I can say about this are her performance is great. And that's kind of it. Like everything else about, and it has a short runtime.
Yeah.
Awesome. I guess, you know what? Fuck it. I do give it an award. Movies are too scared to have an hour and 26-minute run times. This is awesome. So yeah, shout out to that. But that's pretty much it. Otherwise,
that's where it ends for Tim. That's where Tim's accolades end for them.
Yeah, because I think the scares in Annabelle were vastly superior. I think that the cult setup in the beginning was vastly superior to the beginning setup of this one. I think that the overall payoff of the random woman sacrificing herself at the end of Annabelle is funnier than the end of this one, which is also funny.
Can we do a separate segment devoted towards scenes where women jump out of windows to their death in The Cuckoo?
And to that extent, they're both comically bad, right? Like this movie starts with it, and it's just kind of like, what are you trying? That moment isn't interesting at all until we see her fall later when Frenchie's looking at her. And even then, it might have just been interesting because I was like, why is the blood moving that way? Like, what's going on?
Well, that was a question I had. I was like, when they first walked up and the blood was still red, my brain was like, well, that's not accurate. The blood would have dried and be brown by now. I pulled a Kevin, right? Where I was like, blood gets brown after 1 hour of oxidation. But then they were like, why is it still wet? And I was like, what a cool question. Are we ever going to get an answer for that? No.
Things work differently at the Abbey. None.
Yeah, but I'm with Tim on that, right? Where like the if you told me, hey, there's a movie that starts off with a nun running out a window and like with a noose around her neck and killing herself, I'd be like, that's fascinating. I wonder why she did that. In this one, it does not feel interesting in the least or scary in the least. And I think it's just largely because of how everything's set up.
How many answers to the questions you had would you say that you got?
At a certain point, I just stopped.
No!
Wait, what? No.
Hey Tim.
I'm sorry.
Hey Tim.
Fucked up.
Hey Tim. How many answers to the go? Yeah.
I get it. Sorry, my brain wasn't analytical.
The ranking goes: number 1, The Conjuring; number 2, Annabelle Creation; number 3, The Conjuring 2; number 4, Annabelle; and number 5, The Nun. That made me mad. Like I actually got mad.
I mean, that's where you guys got to just step in and be like, Nick, none. And I'll go, James, ask me again.
Yep.
Wait, really quick, Tim. Did you flip them at the bottom? Because didn't most people like Nun above Annabelle?
Shit, you're right. You're right.
I was trying.
Tim's trying to cook the
Check the sheet. The credibility out the window, just like that nun.
Oh man, we need a recount. Next week, we're gonna return with the second to last of the Cuckoo, The Curse of La Llorona. Which is the one that I've heard is the most debatably connected. We'll see. Are they getting even weirder? We'll see. Who here has seen it before?
Not me.
I have not.
We actually haven't seen this one.
Haven't seen it.
We've been talking all year about watching La Llorona, but
Haven't seen it.
Prepare to cry a river.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. We don't understand.
No future spoilers until
My
next
La
time.
Llorona fans out there get it.
God, no.
D-Man.